As we continue, it's OG Sports Wrap. I am Professor G in the MLB Bro Lab, along with Manny Ramirez Brown. We know him as the Man Ram. And Man Ram, got to get right to it because you in the throes of World Cup madness. Seattle has definitely been the place to be for epic World Cup contest. What do you give the grade on the city for handling it?
It's been incredible, man. I think it's been all things considered. I mean, events like this, I always give cities a little bit of a pass on these kind of events because it's hard, man. It's hard to have it's hard to have national events of this level. Imagine an international event like this where you're having people from all parts of the world. You're getting all different types of communities together throughout the city to be together. From a logistics standpoint, it's a nightmare. For fun fact, I work in local government here in the city, so I kind of have a front row seat to a lot of the things going on. But no, I think all things considered, I think it's been handled really well from a standpoint of hosting. I've gotten a chance to talk to some fans that have been like in the throes of it downtown.
Right.
Everything has been pretty well handled logistically. Seattle has a good reputation of being kind of one of those cities that puts on a decent event and is well coordinated. So yeah, Seattle's done a really good job. I can't really complain.
Well, let's talk about some things that everybody is still complaining about from World Cup to 2026. The following Balogun, uh, Team USA,
Yeah.
number 47 influence to just
Um,
kind of take the karma off the team. I mean, I'm one of those guys that does believe that you get a little momentum, you get a little bit of mojo going, and hopefully you ride the wave. Say like
yeah.
NC State did in 1983.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was beginning to buy into that until there was a massive adjustment to a red card. I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Listen, it's one of those things. It's funny, right? The where is the keep the politics out of sports crowd? It's funny how they conveniently insert themselves into certain discussions when it's convenient to their narrative. But hey, be that as it may, listen. It's not lost on me that FIFA is the World Cup is politics beyond anything else. So it's probably it's probably the most political world sporting event of them all. Throw the Olympics in there as well. But listen, all things considered, look, I think two things can be true. Did Flory deserve the red card? No, but the incredible precedent that was set when you're reversing decisions like that, it just speaks to what I think a lot of people kind of feel already about FIFA is that everything kind of up on the up and up is are things really on the if things like this, if the rules and a clear precedent was made and if that can be flipped that easily, then it calls into question everything else, right? And so I think that you just open it up to just incredible scrutiny when it just didn't need to be. Listen, I agree. I don't think he should have gotten the red card. I don't think that was a penalty. But again, at the end of the day, the rules have to stand and the rules have to be what they are. And you can't have outside forces, not even a sitting U.S. president, throw his hat into the ring and try to sway the decision. But it is
Did
what it
you
is.
say try to sway? Oh, that was the
I'll
decision
be
that was
I'll be
swayed.
I'll be polite. I'll be polite. I'll be polite.
Okay, because well, first off, you hit me with a lot of layers there. Second of all, you FIFA has been notorious for their level of gangster behavior amongst the international sports governing bodies.
Yep.
We've known that for years. We've
Yep.
known about under the table payments.
Yep.
Same thing goes on with the International Olympic Committee. So if you want to get the whole world to come to your spot, you got to pony up for it. But the fact that now you're reaching down onto the pitch and you're reaching down and you changing the dynamics of a game. You've got a official now who's being scrutinized for his credibility. You remember they came out and had this masterclass press conference in DC, and you would have thought that it was just another day of the office and the president had done his work. What was it? All in the day's work. So that's
Yeah.
what it. But you hit the nail on the head with it. The precedent, and I was telling everybody at the moment that I heard it sets a wrong direction for the world's most popular sport, and everybody around the world was vibing with this World
Yeah.
Cup. It was one of those
And it
times.
just mars the event. It
It
mars the
does.
process. And it's not necessary. You know what I mean? It didn't need to happen. It didn't need to go down this way. And of course, isn't it always something with FIFA though? Isn't it always something? Even when it feels like it shouldn't be, there is something with FIFA. It's
Yeah,
just,
but
I don't know.
normally it's just in the realm of, sports, gangster sportsmanship, shall we call it. This
Yeah,
is like foreign policy intervention. This is just to
yeah,
prove a point. And I
yeah.
mean, when you look at the way they couldn't even get, and I forgot where there was one nation who had their first ever um referee who
Yeah.
couldn't come into the United States
Yeah.
because of what they deemed to be political ties or something like that.
Oh,
So to
might it be Iran? I think. Would it wasn't it
yeah,
Iran
man,
or somebody
it
else?
was one of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you look at the way that people are being treated. Some have to stay in Mexico and can't stay
Hmm.
in the United States after games and what have you. So there's just been a real, for lack of a better term, and my kid hasn't said this in years, but I'm going to break it out. It's something icky about this. You
Yeah.
know what
No,
I'm
it
saying? I
is.
mean,
It is.
it's
But
just,
there always is. There always is. I mean, listen, if you
um,
go into the weeds of the FIFA stuff and
but
you
see,
throw
this
in the
is,
IOC in
you're
there,
right. You
there's
absolutely, yes.
always a level of ickiness when you come to these international sporting bodies. There's always a level of ickiness. And I think if you're a fan, sometimes you got to hold your nose because it's a gift and a curse, right? You enjoy the product that's being put on the field, but we know that the governing bodies, it's like boxing in a lot of ways, right? Where it's like the product on the field, you love it, right? But it's just there's just an ickiness and a weird. Everything just doesn't
It
feel
leaves
like
a
it should
it,
be
it
on the
leaves
up and up. Yeah.
a bad aftertaste.
And it
That's
didn't even and you could argue
it
it
didn't
put an
have to.
immense and it put immense amount of pressure on the US team,
It
and
did.
you see how they played. They just
Yes.
didn't meet the moment.
No, they did. And everybody in the moment handled it a different way. But I
Yeah.
will say, in fairness to them, their routine was broken. And we all know how athletes get into their
Yeah.
routine, and they're a lot like artists. You know what I'm saying? They got to be focused, and that momentum was broken. And we're not talking about a Brazil team who's won 5 World Cups or France who's
That's
won
true.
four, or
That's
whatever.
true.
You know what I'm
That's true.
saying? So
That's true.
so we needed that team to be put in a position where, despite giving them everything, even more than the women who win gold medals get, but that's
Yeah.
a topic for
No,
another
I get
show.
it. I get it.
You
Yeah, I mean,
know,
you can say that. Yeah, you can say that. I don't
I'm
know.
gonna
I
give
just
them
wish
the
I.
benefit of the doubt there,
Yeah.
man.
Okay.
And
That's
then
fair. That's
they've
fair.
become that most hated team around the world because of their commander in thief. I mean, how do you? I just feel so bad for
Yeah.
them. In many respects, I feel like their opportunity was taken away from them. I don't think they
Yeah.
got a fair shot in that game. Now,
I mean, at the end of the day, you still got to go out and play,
you do have
and
to go
and
out and
and
play.
and you got to give that Belgium team credit. They came to play and they
They
took that
did.
game, and so you got to give them credit. And listen, if you're USA, you had a game in your building in your country. You got to give me a better performance than that. I'm not saying you had to win the game, but you have to have a better
You can't
performance
go
than
out
that.
full one.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't. So where do we go from here? I mean, remember, I think you old enough to
Ooh.
remember, uh,
Yeah.
you know, as far back as when Brandy Chastain were taking off her shirt, right? You remember that, don't you? Or
I do remember that. I do
okay,
remember that.
or did
Yes.
you remember? Or do you remember hearing about it?
Oh, I remember it. I remember it.
Okay,
I remember it. I was a little younger,
right.
but
But
I
but
remember
I
it.
bring that up is because the women have always been the championship caliber team on one side, but we've always had the vibe of the World Cup, and we saw ascension from the men to start
Yeah.
moving towards the level where the women have been for the last quarter of a century.
Yeah.
Uh, humble brag to the ladies. With that
Yeah, for
being
sure.
said,
Shout out to the ladies. Of course. Shout
yeah,
out to the ladies.
all the
Listen,
single ladies, all the soccer ladies, all the soccer ladies.
no, listen, I think, in a lot of ways this World Cup was, a good thing, but it was also a bad thing. I think in the micro, the lost going down 4-1, all this controversy surrounding Flory and Trump and everything like that, I think it's going to leave a sour taste in your mouth. I think in the macro though, I think how this country has responded to the World Cup, how the events have happened and how this country has really embraced it, the USA performance notwithstanding, I think it's a good thing for soccer. And I think it's a good thing specifically for soccer in this country long term.
Okay, now are you talking about fandom or as far as being a USA national team that can
I
finally
think
win a World Cup?
I think both of them. I think we're close. I think we're knocking on that doorstep. I still think We need to develop some more athletes. I think that's the thing that you notice more than anything, at least for me. And I'm not necessarily, and I'm not an expert. Don't come in. I'm not Landon
We are
Donovan.
a
I'm not
lot
doing
more
this for a living.
athletic than we were
Right,
back in the
right. We're
day.
definitely a lot more athletic, but I still think we still need to kind of get that next level. I think our defense needs to improve a lot better to match up with these countries, especially these European and these South American countries. But I think we're close. I think we're close. I think we're right there. I think we're not necessarily in the level of the Frances, the Argentinas, the Brazils. We're not in that top tier level, but I think we're in that next tier. And I think if we just keep building and that's why I said I think that they could again take the Belgian game out of it because I think that game had a lot of other things afoot.
Oh, there were a
But
million intangibles that went
right.
against them in that
That
game.
being said, I think that USA's performance in this World Cup, the continent and how they hosted the World Cup and how the fans have all kind of embraced this World Cup here. I think it's a good thing. I think hopefully, it gets younger guys, younger kids, maybe athletes that are maybe deciding between sports or whatever. Maybe it brings more people to soccer, and I think that that's a good thing. All in all.
That's the man, Ram. I'm Professor G. It's OG Sports Rap here on the network. But I'm talking about now. All right, it's great that we've unlocked the can. There will
Mm,
always be a spike after the World Cup of interest in players, and then we'll have
right.
more parents like you who don't really have a weekend because your second job is being soccer dad. I get it. I
Right.
respect it in a major way. It's almost like being a basketball dad and stuff
Man,
like that.
tell
But
me
what I'm
about it.
talking about, where the program is right now with talent. Okay, you look at the layers to it. 20 years ago, hey, you get to the round of 32, you've done something. Now we
Yeah.
got aspirations to go to 16. We've raised the bar. We've seen the women get there. How
Yeah.
how close are the men?
Again, I think like I said, I think the men are close. I think it's easy in these situations to look in the moment and have kind of a recency bias of things. Recency bias can be a good thing and a bad thing, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're a fan today and you're looking at the USA and I think you could say, oh man, listen to 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. They lost in the round of 32. They got embarrassed. They got smoked by Belgium. And you think, all right, that's it. This experiment of soccer is over in this country. Or you could look at it as like, listen, the United States played really well, had a good competition, has played well over the last couple years to get to this point in the World Cup. Okay, all the Badinga, the Flory stuff and the president, all that stuff notwithstanding, I think USA is close. Now, you still have to keep building. It's no different than any other sport with a team that loses before they get to a championship. You got to keep building. You can't just say, "All right, we got to this place. All right, we're done. We need to rebuild or we need to re-strategize." No, you got to keep building. You got to keep throwing your hat into the ring and eventually, you know, all it takes is one World Cup, right? All it takes is one round of 32. All it takes is one, quarterfinal. All it takes is one
It
semifinal.
takes one
But
dynamic
you have to
performance.
build. You have to keep
Yeah.
building, and that's the thing. I think everybody just wants that, that immediate payoff, and it doesn't take that. It takes time to build soccer in this country,
We
and I
we
think that
would
we're
like to
getting
see
there.
that one shining moment like they had in Mexico City in
Yeah,
1970 when a guy named Pelé was, showing the beautiful
yeah,
game to the world, you
yeah.
know. And
It's,
I don't know who that face of the franchise type player is
yeah,
right now, but I will say this. I do like the coach. I like the fact that he comes from an Argentine background. They're
yep.
playing a different brand of
They
football
are.
right
That's big.
now. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So, and the fact that in many respects, the team was kind of doomed because they only had their coach for 15 months.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? He was
They're
he
still
was
building.
learning he was learning the whole system on the fly. So
Yeah.
before we and I'm not going to chastise Canadians or anything. I think the adults in the room messed it up for the kids. That you know what I'm
Oh,
saying? But
listen. Yeah, for sure.
but I like where they are. I just hope they don't get stuck in this quandary that marks the men's side of USA soccer more so than it does for the women, because I think the women know where the superstars are and really letting
Well,
them fly. And I don't know if that had been happening previous to now with the men.
I think it's also one of those things. It's like measuring what success is, right? And like the thing for me is just like, okay, round of 32 in this World Cup. Okay, so 2030, what do we have to do to get to the next step of getting to a quarterfinal, right?
Getting to
And
a
measuring
semifinal.
or to a yeah, exactly to a or to a semifinal. Okay, and you measure that and you see, okay, we're here. Well, how do we get to here? And that's where a lot of people who are smarter than both of us and make a lot more
Right.
money than both of us are going to be put in that position to make that diagnosis. I think we have a good foundation and a good building block. Now you have to just keep building on it. I think they've got the right coach. I think they've got the right system. There's still some tweaks that need to be made. I think they need to get stronger at the point of attack. I think they need to get better defensively. But and let's be fair, Pulisic didn't play well. These guys
Well,
have to
he
play
was
better
injured.
in
He
these.
gets he
He
gets
was
a
injured, so that gets
mulligan.
a pass, right? But he didn't play well. Hopefully in 4 years he's better, stronger, and is able to meet the moment. So listen, overall, I think in the micro it sucks. It's an embarrassing performance, but I think in the macro, the USA is on the right step, and they're gonna get there. I believe it.
I believe it too. I really do. Finally, all right. I want to get back to a little bit of baseball here,
Yep.
as over the last week we've seen Wilson Contreras retaliate, if you will, after Cade
Mm-hmm.
Cavalli struck him out, but referred to him as a boy.
Yep.
There are those who would argue that you got to be a tougher competitor and handle that. There are others that will argue um, those are words that you just don't get a pass on when addressing me. Where'd you fall on that ugly scene, which led to suspensions and then those
Mm-hmm.
suspensions being adjusted?
No, I listen. I'm so sick and tired of I didn't know in 2026. I'm sick of it.
But
I'm
that's what
tired of it.
Chad Tracy said.
But I'm sick and tired of the I don't knows. Listen, everybody, most people in the world have one of these, a cell phone. Basically a miniature computer with information at your fingertips. All right? We live in and in some ways we live in a more diverse world than we've ever lived in. I don't want to hear about you don't know. I can live with that excuse in 1976. I can live in that excuse in 2001. In 2026, when there's information at your fingertips, where in a lot of ways we're more diverse than we've ever been. I don't want to hear about you didn't know that the racial connotation to boy. And I don't think that Cade Cavalli meant to be racist. Like I don't know that man. I'm not gonna sit there and cast aspersions on him or put that on him. But you cannot feign ignorance anymore. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear it. Watch a YouTube video, Google, watch a movie, do anything, inform yourself. This is not the first time that Cade Cavalli's played with players of color. I
Mhm.
guarantee you in his life, he's played with other Hispanic players, black players, Asian players. Like, so there's just certain things culturally that you just can't do and say. And I'm tired of the ignorance and I'm tired of educate yourself. You're playing with people from all walks of life and background, and you have to do the due diligence to educate yourself. So to me, I don't give you a pass because you didn't know or I didn't understand or I didn't understand. I appreciated his apology. He seemed sincere about it. He really seemed like, oh man, I really messed up. I didn't really understand. So I hope that this is something where he learns from it, and because he's a young guy still, he learns from it and he becomes better. But I'm tired of the I don't knows in 2026. That's where my feelings were about it.
All right, great points. All of them. All I would say is, and it's like, have we gotten to the point, or we're so racially insensitive that if I say "attaboy,"
Mm-hmm.
is that going to be perceived as politically incorrect or something like that? Because that's something that I grew up with. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Now, but to your point, I think you said it without saying it. It's about the context and
Yep.
in the moment, and maybe contrast on a team that's been struggling a little bit. Him struggling at the plate, he may have overreacted. But again, you can't. It's like I had to come around to appreciating the thrown bat because I
Yeah.
thought that was showing a pitcher up. I don't think a pitcher can use that term anymore when he strikes anybody out
Yeah.
because that's showing a hitter up. All right. Whether you are racially insensitive or socially stupid, um, I'm giving you a parameter and a
Listen,
lane to
listen.
fall through.
If he sits there, if Cade Cavalli could replay that moment and he says, "Sit your," and I'm a curse, "Sit your ass down." It's a totally different. Now that still may be a brawl because hey, Wilson Contreras is always somebody that looking to get in the mix, and not to mention he's playing with a heavy heart because he's a Venezuelan guy, and
Yeah.
Venezuela is going through a lot of disasters right now with the earthquakes and everything like that. Again, shout out to the people in Venezuela. But so that still
Mm.
happens. That being said, if he uses a different word there, none of this happens, or at least this situation is very different. The connotation and the context is key, and you have to know that, especially in 2026. And if you don't know that, shame on you, shame on your parents, shame on your community, shame on everybody that you grew up around, because this is not like rocket science.
No, one would think, but then again, I mean, you see there are tons of people who are lost. I mean, I think that when you don't critically think in moments anymore, and I think the term woke has been weaponized, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. And I think this is one of those moments where you got to critically think, which means you would be woke, and then therefore certain buzzwords at this time in your office you should not use. And that's the context I want to get everybody's arms around. The baseball diamond to the pro baseball player is the office.
Yeah, and
There's
it's just
certain
about
things you
and
just
it's
can't say at the office that you
and
would
it's
say
just
at the
and
bar.
and it's just respect. At the end of the day, it comes down to respect, right? Like, I don't have to like you. I don't have to necessarily understand your culture, but I have to respect you. And we have to respect each other. And when that line of respect gets crossed, we have a problem. And that's just in life, right? And so there's no different in life, sports, anything. When we just lack respect for each other, it's a problem.
Let me let you go on this. Did baseball get it right by reducing the suspensions, or should they have just given them the entire week? Because you go from 7 games to 5 games, and you're available for the weekend series before
Yeah.
the All-Star game. Is that a big
Yeah.
thing?
It's not. I mean, plus we're in a labor dispute right now. I think baseball's like, listen, this is not a battle we want to fight at this moment. We got bigger fish to fry. So I think baseball kind of just said, you know what? And I think it went a long way in Kay Cavalli's apology and how he apologized and how kind of steadfast and emotional. And I don't believe that was an act. I don't. I think he was
It
really.
did
I
diffuse the
think he.
situation. I will give him that.
I think he realized how. I think he realized that he messed up, and I think his apology was worthwhile, and I think that played into it. But I think at the end of the day, I think baseball realized, like, look, this isn't a fight in the midst of a labor dispute. I don't think we want to fight this fight. We extend the thing. Now the players association's mad. Now we're fighting another battle on top. I think they just don't want to deal with it. So I think they just said, you know what, let's just reduce it.
And I really do feel bad for the Nationals. It's been a tough season. First the banner in the outfield, then situations like this. And when you look at their management, I mean their ownership group, it's one of the most diverse in baseball. So
Yeah.
I can speak somewhat to there's a lot more cultural sensitivity.
Yeah.
You look at the way on their promotions, they're still active with the HBCU nights
Yeah.
and the Pride nights and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think this is necessarily a reflection on them, but hot
No.
tempers, boy, and little
Hey,
boys.
and it speaks to just the culture of baseball, man. It just speaks to a wider. I mean, listen, there's a lot of layers to this, so we'd be here all night talking about this. There's so many layers to this, but again, it's about respect. It's about the culture of baseball that allows this behavior in a lot of ways. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the willful ignorance that people have in this society, around race relations, around words and terms, words have power,
They
and
do.
that's the thing. Words have power, and words have history. And I think that we need to all educate ourselves and do better.
That's my guy, the man ran, Manny Ramirez Brown. Manny, always a pleasure to talk to you, bro. And we'll
Oh,
talk
yes,
again
sir.
down the line real soon.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Stick with us. We got more of what you came here for on the other side. It's OG Sports Rap on the network. Remember, download the mobile app, Sports Rap Network, Android and iPhone, and it's free because we all we got.